There's failure. And then there's what the Browns just did on national television. You don't give up 2 kick return touchdowns. You don't score 3 points against a quarterback who threw for less than 60 yards. You don't waste a defense filled with all-pro talent while your starting QB is launching passes into the 3rd row. And yet, Cleveland did exactly that. But this isn't just about a bad game. This isn't frustration over one loss. What we're watching might be the most stubborn, tone-deaf, and flat-out embarrassing quarterback situation in the NFL right now. Kevin Stefanski, the coach who was once seen as a rising star, is actively ignoring the one name that every fan is screaming to see: Shadour Sanders. Why? Why is this coaching staff doubling down on a quarterback who looks visibly lost every time he touches the field? And why does it feel like this decision isn't just about football anymore? What's happening in Cleveland right now is bigger than box scores or stats. It's about pride, control, and the deadly mistake of refusing to admit you're wrong. And if things don't change fast, this won't just be a wasted season. It'll be the moment everyone looks back on and says, "That's when the Browns lost their future." Let's talk about what actually happened on that field Sunday, because this wasn't just a bad performance. This was a complete football humiliation. A meltdown so baffling, it doesn't even make sense unless you saw it unfold in real time. The Cleveland Browns didn't just lose to the New York Jets, they got clowned by them. A team with no working offense, a backup quarterback who couldn't even crack 60 yards through the air, and somehow they walked away with the win. How? 2 kick return touchdowns. 10 brutal penalties, a quarterback who couldn't hit open receivers if they were holding up neon signs, and a coaching staff that sat frozen on the sideline watching the house burn. Dillon Gabriel threw for just 167 yards. That number's bad enough, but it hides the real disaster: missed throws, bad reads, late decisions, and passes that weren't just incomplete, they were dangerous. One ball slipped straight through his receiver's hands and turned into a back-breaking interception. But that wasn't even the moment fans lost it. That came when the camera cut back to Gabriel after the pick, and he tapped his chest like, "My bad." Your bad? You threw a hospital ball in the middle of a critical drive, and the only reaction you have is, "My bad?" That's not accountability. That's a quarterback who doesn't realize how lucky he is to still be under center. And what makes the collapse even harder to swallow is the opponent. The New York Jets aren't exactly lighting the league on fire. Their quarterback, Justin Fields, finished that game with 54 passing yards. 42 of those came on a single screen pass. Seriously! Without that one play, he's sitting at 12 passing yards on the night. By halftime, the Jets had -7 net passing yards. -7. And somehow, the Browns were still losing. If that stat doesn't make you slam your fist on the table, nothing will. This wasn't just losing a game. This was walking into the schoolyard, swinging at thin air, and dropping your lunch tray. Cleveland got outplayed in every phase. Special teams got gashed twice. Offense was completely lifeless. Coaching decisions made 0 adjustments. And now people are rightfully asking, if you can't beat a team that's barely able to function offensively, then who can you beat? But here's the problem, and it's more dangerous than one bad scoreboard. The Browns just told their fans, their players, and the entire league something loud and clear. They're okay with this. Because after that game, there was no major statement, no accountability, no shakeup. Just another round of hollow press conference answers and rehearsed lines about getting better next week. You just fell flat on your face in front of the entire country, and your response is basically, "We'll rewatch the tape." And while Dillon Gabriel was delivering one of the ugliest starts of his career, someone else was watching. Someone who might have changed the outcome. Someone who wasn't given the chance to take even a single snap. Shadour Sanders. He stood there helmet off, clipboard in hand, watching his opportunity vanish minute by minute. Watching a team unravel while everyone except the head coach seemed to know he should be on the field. And that's when this went from bad football to full-blown dysfunction. Cleveland didn't just lose a game they should have won, they exposed something far worse, that the people in charge are asleep at the wheel. And if you think this game was rock bottom, you might want to buckle up, because the real disaster comes when you realize this coaching staff still believes they're on course. Let's make one thing brutally clear. Dillon Gabriel is not ready to be an NFL quarterback. That's not hating, that's not overreacting. That's the uncomfortable truth anyone who watched Sunday's game and the 4 before it can clearly see. There's a big difference between struggling and simply not belonging. And right now, Gabriel is looking like a college highlight reel that somehow got dropped into a pro playbook he doesn't understand. Let's take a closer look, because this isn't just about stats. The numbers don't tell the whole story, his body language does. Every snap feels like he's trying to survive, not take control. He looks jittery in the pocket. His footwork is sloppy. His eyes are locked down field 1 second, then suddenly on the rush the next. He's playing scared. And the NFL senses fear like blood in the water. Even when he does have time in the pocket, clean protection, a safe look, an open target, he's late on the throws. He's second-guessing everything. By the time he pulls the trigger, the window's shut, the defender's already turning, and boom, another wasted down. Throw after throw sails too high, sometimes 5, sometimes 10 feet over the receiver's head. And these aren't trick plays or deep bombs, we're talking routine slants, curls, checkdowns, passes designed to be automatic. But with Gabriel, nothing is automatic. It feels like every completion is an exception, not the rule. And here's the part that stings even more. The Browns wanted him to succeed. They rushed him into the starting role because he was the smart guy, the leader in the room, the so-called supercomputer under center. Let me ask you something. If this is a supercomputer, why does it look like it's running on dial-up internet? Because right now, this offense is being piloted by a Tandy computer trying to process NFL speed. And yes, let's be fair, the offensive line is banged up. The play calling has been stale. But even with all that considered, Gabriel isn't showing signs of progress. In fact, he looks worse now than he did in week 1. And nobody's saying every rookie should walk in and play like Mahomes. We expect growing pains, we expect mistakes, but what you also look for with a young QB is that one play, even a single moment where he flashes, where you say, okay, there it is, that's the spark. Have we seen that moment yet with Dillon Gabriel? If it happened, it was so fast, most people missed it. There's no sign of rhythm, no chemistry with his receivers, no growth in his command of the offense. Just mistake after mistake, papered over with excuses and padded pressers that say, he's young, he needs time. But here's the thing, time is a luxury not every franchise gets. Especially not Cleveland, because every snap he takes is a snap Shadour Sanders doesn't. Every week of development for Gabriel is another week fans wonder when they'll get to see the quarterback they actually believe in. And you've got players in that locker room, guys who bust their bodies week in and week out, they know. They can tell when a guy just doesn't have it yet, and that eats away at morale faster than anything else. So where does that leave us? With a head coach who keeps saying, trust the process, and a quarterback showing no signs of progress, a team that started the season hoping to compete and now looks confused, directionless, and lost at the most important position on the field. It's not just that Dillon Gabriel is underperforming, it's that everyone else is paying the price for it. And as painful as that is to admit, it leads us to the real question. Why won't they just hand the reins to Shadour Sanders? It's not like Gabriel is lighting the scoreboard up. It's not like the season is on the line. So what exactly is keeping Cleveland from benching a guy who clearly isn't ready and giving the fan base, even just for one game, a glimpse of what could be? The answer? That might be even more frustrating than the quarterback play itself. So if Dillon Gabriel isn't ready, if the season is slipping away, if your offense is flatlining in real time, why isn't Shadour Sanders playing? Look, this isn't some Hail Mary desperation call. We're not talking about a scrub off the practice squad. We're talking about one of college football's most electrifying quarterbacks of the past few years. A guy with the tools, the poise, and the background that scream NFL ready, at least enough to justify a serious look. And the craziest part? He's standing right there. Game after game, he's on the sideline, fully padded, fully healthy, locked in, headset on, watching, waiting, but never stepping on the field. Not even in garbage time. Not even for a change of pace series to spark life into an offense that's been stuck in neutral since week 3. And that silence from the coaching staff is getting louder. Kevin Stefanski doesn't just ignore the Shadour question, he shuts it down. Every time he's asked about potentially giving Sanders a chance, you get the same answer. We're sticking to the plan. We believe in Dillon. Shadour is continuing to learn. Okay, what plan exactly? Is the plan to waste 8 games watching a rookie spiral deeper into confusion while the fan base and locker room begs for change? Because if that's your plan, it's not development, it's dysfunction. Every other franchise with a struggling young QB has at least shown a willingness to pivot, but in Cleveland, it almost feels personal. Don't believe it? Watch Stefanski's body language the next time someone brings up Shadour. He freezes up, his mouth says, "We're evaluating all positions," but his tone says, "Stop asking." Reporters have noticed it, analysts have called it out, fans see it. He can't even fake objectivity. Some NFL insiders have started whispering the same theory. Stefanski doesn't like Sanders. Harsh? Sure. Speculative? Maybe. But when you look at how coldly Sanders is treated compared to the patience shown to Gabriel, you start to wonder if there's something deeper happening behind the scenes. And let's not pretend like Shadour Sanders is some unknown longshot. This is Deion's son. A high-profile, high-IQ quarterback who grew up with the game in his blood, showed elite-level arm talent and leadership at Colorado, and entered the league with buzz. There are scouts who believed Sanders had the potential to be a first-round pick. Others said his poise and processing were ahead of most in his draft class. You don't bury a player like that without some reason. So what is it? Is this just coach loyalty to his guy? Is Stefanski afraid to create a quarterback controversy by even opening that door? Or is this truly about control his system, his process, his analytics being more important to him than what the scoreboard is screaming? Whatever the reason, it's not adding up. Sanders has been quiet, professional, respectful. He hasn't stirred the pot publicly. No cryptic tweets, no sideline outbursts, but you can read it on his face. Every week that passes, every stalled drive he watches from the bench, it's just another message being sent, "We don't trust you." And the problem with that isn't just hurt feelings, it's missed opportunity. You're not contending. You're 2-9. Your playoff hopes are ashes. This is when rebuilding teams are supposed to experiment to learn what they have, to build for next season. That's what smart franchises do. But in Cleveland, they're burning snaps on a quarterback they know isn't the future, while leaving a potential franchise guy in the dark. You want to talk about how quarterback busts happen? This is how. You sit them, you shake their confidence, you stunt their development. You teach them that no matter how hard they work, the decision has already been made. We've seen this story play out before. Player gets buried, trust gets broken, development timeline derails, and when it all comes crashing down, the team shrugs and says, "Guess he wasn't ready." When in reality, he was ready. They just never let him prove it. And that's why this is no longer just a coaching decision. It's turning into a scandal of stubbornness. Because if Shadour Sanders ends up being a star somewhere else, the Browns won't just be criticized. They'll be remembered as the team who had him and chose pride over progress. At this point, it's not just poor decision-making. It's not just an offense stuck in the mud. It's starting to look like straight-up coaching negligence. Kevin Stefanski's refusal to pull Dillon Gabriel isn't just frustrating, it's baffling. It's a level of loyalty that doesn't even feel professional anymore. It feels personal, and when coaches start prioritizing their pride over the product on the field, that's when seasons start turning into disasters. Let's break this down. After 5 starts, we all know who Dillon Gabriel is. He's not terrible, but he's not uplifting this offense. He's not igniting the locker room. He's not accelerating development. He's not doing anything that warrants locking him in as the long-term guy. But instead of making a switch or at least opening the door, Stefanski doubles down. Post-game? Same script. We've got to be better as an offense. We trust our young guys. We're seeing growth on the tape. Listen, nobody's seeing that growth. Not the fans, not the players, not the analysts, not even the tape. Gabriel isn't trending up. He's flatlining. And here's where it gets dark, because when a head coach repeats the same lines week after week, it's no longer about the quarterback. It's about protecting something else entirely, his own ego. This team has lost 100 games under current leadership. Read that again. 100. That's not rebuild mode. That's not transition. That's not growing pains. That's system failure. And still no changes on offense. No adjustments on special teams. No new direction at quarterback. How does that happen? How does a head coach look at a team giving up multiple special teams touchdowns, an offense ranking near the bottom of every key category, and say, yeah, let's stay the course? At some point, it stops being incompetence and starts being ego-driven malpractice. And that's what we're watching unfold in Cleveland. Stefanski isn't just resistant to criticism, he's immune to it. Public pressure? Doesn't matter. National embarrassment? Not even a flinch. Outraged fans and ex-players destroying him on social media? Shrug. He looks into the camera and repeats the same emotionless mantras, while the team beneath him crumbles. And here's where it becomes even more troubling, because deep down, Kevin Stefanski knows. He sees the tape. He hears the locker room. He knows Gabriel isn't getting better. But admitting that would mean admitting his decision was wrong, and that's the one thing he will not do. Remember what he said in the press conference when asked about evaluating Shadour Sanders? "We're sticking with our plan. Dylan's our guy. We're always developing our young players. No urgency, no accountability, just ice." The kind of robotic tone you get from a man who's already made up his mind. He didn't even entertain the idea of Sanders seeing a snap in a lost season. He didn't open the door even a crack. He shut the conversation down like it insulted him. That's not leadership. That's denial with a headset on. And don't forget, this is the same coach who won Coach of the Year just a few seasons ago. People thought he was the savior of Cleveland football. But now it looks like the longer he's been in power, the more unwilling he's become to shift direction, even when the wall's clearly coming. You can be a strong leader and still make changes. You can stand behind your players and hold them accountable. You can be loyal without being blind. But Kevin Stefanski? He's clinging to Dylan Gabriel like his job depends on it. And that might just be the exact reason this franchise is circling the drain again. Here's the truth. No one in that building wants to admit. This isn't fixable with play-calling tweaks or more growth moments. This is about refusal, refusing to evolve, refusing to pivot, refusing to admit you're wrong and take the necessary risks to save your roster. And the longer this denial drags out, the louder the noise gets. Because the media's waking up, the fans never fell asleep, and the rest of the NFL is staring at the Browns asking one question: how far are they willing to fall just to protect one bad decision? Bad coaching is one thing. You see it, you hate it, but you move on. What Cleveland fans are watching right now? This feels worse, because this isn't just about poor decisions. It's about wasted opportunity. This roster isn't perfect, but it's not bottom tier either. You've got veterans who can still play at a Pro Bowl level. You've got young weapons who need touches and reps. And most importantly, you've got a defense that on paper should be among the best in the league. So what's happening instead? Game after game, the Browns' elite defenders are staying on the field too long because their offense can't hold the ball. They exit the field after a massive third down stop, only to come jogging back out 2 plays later because Dylan Gabriel panicked, missed an open receiver, or threw behind the sticks again. It's a problem. You've got Myles Garrett, arguably the most freakish athlete on the defensive side of the ball in the entire NFL, visibly frustrated slamming his helmet on the sideline. Not because he's underperforming. No, because he's dominating. And it still doesn't matter. How do you waste that kind of once-in-a-generation talent? Simple. You run an offense that can't move the chains. You play a quarterback who's not ready. And you double down on it week after week while your defense carries the weight of an entire organization on its back. And it's not just Garrett. Across this roster, you've got young players trying to develop, trying to earn second contracts, trying to build confidence and chemistry. But how much can they grow if your quarterback is missing basic reads and leaving them out to dry? Wide receivers running clean routes with no balls coming their way. Running backs getting blown up in the backfield because defenses aren't respecting the pass. Tight ends turned into extra linemen because no one trusts Gabriel to stretch the field. This isn't just stalling out. This is rot. Even worse, every snap Dylan Gabriel takes is one more wasted evaluation opportunity for Shadour Sanders. That's time you can't get back. Let's be honest. At 2-9, you're not making the playoffs. You're not flipping the season on its head. But what you can do is use these final 8 games to ask one crucial question. Do we already have our quarterback of the future, or are we drafting one this spring? That's it. That's the core of the decision. And the only way to answer that question is by giving Sanders the reps. Let him make mistakes, sure. Let him throw a pick or two. It doesn't matter. Right now, the season is no longer about wins or losses, it's about data. You gather it while you still can. But Cleveland? They're doing the exact opposite. They're choosing not to know. And when you do that, when you bury a potential star, when you rob your franchise of the chance to map out the future, you're not just wasting games. You're wasting careers. Ask players like Joe Thomas, how many years of Pro Bowl level play did the Browns burn in the name of patience and sticking to the plan? Ask any Cleveland veteran, you only get so many years at this level. Once they're gone, they're gone. And sooner rather than later, players start looking around and asking, why am I here? They lose trust. they lose motivation, and eventually, they leave. That's what this regime is flirting with right now. The longer Stefanski clings to Dillon Gabriel, the more it undermines everything else. Locker room trust, player development, fan support, and yes, even draft strategy. Because imagine the worst-case scenario. The Browns don't play Sanders. They go all in on a first-round QB in the upcoming draft. They start over again. New playbook. New system. Another rookie learning curve. And then Sanders shows up on another team and explodes. Sound crazy? Ask Bears fans watching CJ Stroud right now. This is the moment where good franchises make hard but smart decisions and bad franchises double down until there's nothing left to save. And as of right now, Cleveland is doubling down. When a team collapses, it's usually a local story, a few angry fans, some frustrated beat reporters. The coach gives his usual "we need to be better" soundbite, everyone nods and we move on. But this isn't one of those stories. This has gone national. Stephen A. Smith didn't just criticize Dillon Gabriel after the Browns' collapse against the Jets, he torched him. He pointed straight into the camera and asked what every fan in Cleveland has been too heartbroken to say out loud. What is this brother eating before the game? Because that pick? That throw that went right through the receiver's hands? That pass that somehow landed 10 rows deep on a 15-yard route? That wasn't just a mistake. It was a moment that, in real time, symbolized the entire Browns offense. Out of rhythm, out of control, out of hope. And Stephen A. wasn't alone. By Monday morning, every major football show, Undisputed, NFL Live, Get Up, First Things First, they all had the Browns in the headline graphic. Not for a great play, not for a breakout performance, but for humiliation, for regression, for dysfunction. It's one thing when local media turns, but when the national sports world piles on, that's the moment a team stops being pitied and starts being mocked. And that's exactly where Cleveland is landing. NFL insiders are openly questioning Kevin Stefanski's judgment, not behind closed doors, not through anonymous quotes. They're saying it live, on air. Stefanski's wasting the season. Sanders should have been given a shot weeks ago. This might not be stubbornness. This might just be ego. There are even rumors starting to circulate about tension in the locker room, about veterans demanding answers, about players losing patience with Gabriel while Sanders is left parked on the bench like a luxury car nobody's allowed to drive. And that's what makes this backlash different. This isn't just about poor QB play anymore. This is about squandered potential. This is about refusal to adapt. This is about a front office and coaching staff being so stuck in their decision that they're willing to let the building burn before admitting the fire exists. And fans? Oh, the fans aren't just upset. They're furious. Go ahead, search Twitter, X, Reddit, YouTube comments. We're not talking about trolls with 5 followers. These are lifetime Browns fans saying they're done watching. Season ticket holders questioning whether it's worth renewing next year. Former players, alumni, and even respected voices in Cleveland sports media all turning. They've watched enough. They saw Gabriel throw for 160 meaningless yards while the defense carried water. They saw the Jets, a team asking if their quarterback can throw a spiral beat Cleveland on national television. And they saw on the sideline Shadour Sanders, fully dressed, totally ignored. It's no longer about if Sanders should start. It's about why the team refuses to find out. And here's the thing, every week this drags on, the backlash will only grow. Because every time Gabriel throws another pick, another screen pass hits the turf, or another 3rd and short turns into a 4th and 5, the tweets will fly, the highlights will go viral for all the wrong reasons, and the noise around Stefanski's job security will get louder. That's what happens when the whole football world smells blood. Cleveland is no longer being treated like a struggling team. They're being treated like a franchise in active denial, willing to crash the car rather than move out of the left lane. And let's be clear, coaches have lost their jobs over far less. Kevin Stefanski isn't just gambling with his quarterback decision. He's gambling with the credibility of the entire organization, the trust of his locker room, the goodwill of a fan base that's already had enough heartbreak for 10 lifetimes. And the irony? This could all end with one move, one switch, one test drive. One opportunity given to the most obvious option sitting in plain sight? Shadour Sanders. But the longer they wait, the louder the backlash. And once the national media turns its spotlight directly on you, good luck getting out of it unburned. Here's the part that hurts the most. This isn't new. Everything happening right now, the confusion, the quarterback carousel, the stubborn loyalty to the wrong guy, the wasted seasons built on blind faith instead of bold decisions, we've seen it before, over and over and over again. The Cleveland Browns are not just struggling, they are repeating history. And for fans who have stuck with this team through decades of disappointment, the signs are all too familiar. The names change, the faces on the sideline rotate, but the story? It's always the same. Tim Couch, Brady Quinn, Colt McCoy, Brandon Weeden, Johnny Manziel, Deshaun Kaiser. Most of them had talent. Many of them had strong starts. A few even showed flashes of greatness. But the one thing that connected them all? They were inserted into a broken system, and when things didn't work immediately, the franchise doubled down on dysfunction instead of accepting responsibility and adapting. And now, here we are again. Kevin Stefanski is not the first Cleveland coach to hold on to the wrong quarterback, like his paycheck depended on it. But he might be the most stubborn, because unlike those other coaches, he actually has a legitimate option right behind him. A guy with pedigree. A guy with poise. A guy begging silently for his shot. And instead of deviating from the usual tragic script, Stefanski seems ready to copy and paste it. The only difference now? Fans know what's coming. They've seen this movie. They can predict every next scene. The good defense gets wasted. The offense sputters. The season slips away quietly. Then, in the offseason, Cleveland resets again. New plan, new hope, new mess. Lather. Rinse. Rebuild. Repeat. But this one? This one feels heavier. Because unlike in years past, this roster has talent, it has leadership, it has weapons, and it has a quarterback, Shadour Sanders, who doesn't need to be rebuilt from scratch. He just needs a chance. And all it would take is one bold decision from Stefanski. Just one. Put ego aside. Admit something isn't working. Give your team and your fan base hope rooted in action. Because right now, what hurts Cleveland fans the most isn't that they're losing. It's that they're doing it the same damn way they always have. With blind loyalty, with fear of change, with vague answers. With young talent buried on the bench and coaches standing at the podium reading the "Trust the process" teleprompter one more time for the cameras. And you know what that does? It drains the fan base. It creates this slow, burning rot, where not only do fans expect failure, they start becoming numb to it. And that's how you lose a city. Cleveland fans are some of the toughest, most passionate fans in sports. They've endured more heartbreak than nearly any other franchise's supporters, but even they have a breaking point. And it's getting dangerously close. Because the question isn't just, why is Dillon Gabriel still playing? It's also, what future are you protecting by doing this? What proof do we have that this coaching staff even knows when it's wrong? And if Sanders isn't getting a shot now, when does he ever? Real progress comes from honest evaluation, from change, from risk. But Cleveland isn't taking risks anymore. They're repeating patterns, falling back into the same habits that turned potential-filled seasons into lottery picks, the same habits that sank promising prospects and wore out Hall of Fame careers. And what makes that truth hit even harder? Everyone outside the organization knows exactly how this ends. Dillon Gabriel continues to start. The Browns finish 4-13. Shadour Sanders never gets meaningful reps. Stefanski enters the offseason on a hot seat that should have been fired weeks ago. And by the time Cleveland actually figures something out, it's too late. We've all seen this before. But maybe, just maybe, this time doesn't have to end the same. Maybe this is the moment Cleveland finally breaks the loop, stops clinging to bad decisions, stops riding the same haunted carousel. Maybe Stefanski does make the change, even if it's late, even if it's messy. Because repeating history isn't a curse, it's a choice. There are 8 games left, 8 chances to shift the narrative, 8 weeks to take a broken season and finally start learning from it. 8 opportunities to decide, do we stay blind to what's not working, or do we grow up and face it? Because here's the truth, no one in Cleveland's front office wants to say out loud, this season isn't about playoff hopes anymore, it's about answers. And right now, the Browns are getting none. They're riding a quarterback who has shown all of us exactly who he is, hesitant, cautious, overwhelmed. Dillon Gabriel might be a great guy, he might be a hard worker. But in the NFL, heart doesn't buy you a second contract. Production does. And 5 games of inconsistency, missed throws, and lifeless drives have given fans all the evidence they need. He's not the guy. Maybe someday, but not now. And not in this offense. So, why is he still playing? Because Kevin Stefanski would rather lose being loyal than risk being wrong. He'd rather protect his decisions than protect the franchise's future. And in doing so, he is wasting the one thing you absolutely cannot buy in this league: time. The next 8 games should be about evaluating everything. Who's worth keeping? Who can help next year? But most of all, is Shadour Sanders the guy or not? No one's saying he needs to be a savior. No one expects perfection from a rookie. But what fans do expect is clarity. And they're not getting any, not with Gabriel taking every snap and Sanders becoming more of a ghost every week. The Browns will need to make huge decisions this offseason. Do they draft another quarterback? Do they trade Sanders? Do they keep Stefanski? Every one of those answers hinges on a decision that's still not being made. How can you make a franchise-altering choice if you refuse to gather the most important data? You've got 8 games, just 8 to find out what you have. Before free agency, before the draft, before everything resets again. And yet, Cleveland is pretending like those games are meaningless, like nothing needs to change, like we can just run it back and hope for better results. That isn't strategy. That's surrender. And don't be fooled, these decisions aren't happening in a vacuum. Players are watching, agents are watching, free agents are watching, the league is watching. This narrative matters. If you go 3-14, never play Sanders, and then draft a new QB in the first round, what message does that send? To your locker room? To your young core? To your next quarterback? It tells them, you don't believe in your own evaluations. You don't stand behind your talent. You back down from fixing mistakes, you double down on them. That's how trust erodes. That's how locker rooms fracture. That's how promising teams become yearly punchlines. But maybe, just maybe, there's time to flip the script. Maybe it's not too late to throw Gabriel on the bench, hand Sanders the headset, and say, the stage is yours, show us something. Just give the kid the ball. Not because he's the guaranteed answer, but because no one, not even Stefanski himself, can answer that question until it actually happens on the field. You can't improve what you're too afraid to test. And Cleveland? They've been afraid for far too long. Kevin Stefanski has 8 games to change that. 8 games to admit what's obvious. 8 games to prove to the league, the fans, and his own locker room that he still knows how to make the right decision, not just the safe one. Because if he doesn't, if Gabriel keeps starting and Sanders keeps sitting and the Browns quietly coast to another wasted year, then we already know what happens next. Another rebuild, another coaching search, another high draft pick being asked to fix a culture that can't get out of its own way. This team has talent, it has potential, but that clock, it's not waiting. And if Cleveland wants to escape the endless loop of heartbreak and heartbreak masked as progress, they better stop protecting egos and start protecting the future. Because when time runs out, you don't just lose games. You lose a city.